Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome everyone to today's discussion on manufacturing excellence and innovation for competitiveness and sustainability of chemical manufacturing, organized by United Nations Industrial Development Organization. Chemicals manufacturing is a powerhouse of Indian manufacturing. It is first in terms of exports and value addition, and fourth in terms of employment. But chemicals manufacturing is unfortunately often associated with negative side effects, including industrial and chemicals accidents, discharges of hazardous waste, emissions, and high energy use. Good manufacturing practices are key for safe, productive, and energy efficient operations. Working with government and industry bodies, UNIDO aspires to help achieve this aim. Welcome again to another effort in the form of today's dialogue under Clean Manufacturing in India, Swachh Udyog, on excellence and innovation for competitive and sustainable chemicals manufacturing in India. I would like to welcome our chief guest for today's discussion, Honorable Union Minister for Chemicals and Fertilizers, Shri Sadanand Gauraji. Welcome, sir. It's an honor to have you on this forum today. With this, I would request UNIDO representative in India, Dr. Rene van Berkel, to set the context for today's dialogue.
Thank you very much, Maite, and also on my behalf, from UNIDO side, very much welcome to the Minister for agreeing to be our chief guest this afternoon. I'm trying to share my screen and do a little bit of a context setting, because we spoke about manufacturing excellence for and innovation for competitiveness and sustainability of chemicals manufacturing. In that, I just want to do maybe highlight that this work is undertaken in the framework of what we call a Facility for International Cooperation on Inclusive and Sustainable Industrial Development, which is a partnership which UNIDO has with the Department for Industry and Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade on facilitating learning and knowledge and fostering projects and partnerships on inclusive and sustainable industrial development, which has as its main pillars then how industry can collaborate to share prosperity, contribute to environmental sustainability and to economic development. And that is very much linked to the SDG 9, the Sustainable Development Goal 9, which talks about inclusive and sustainable industrialization. These are very high terms, and in that sense, we all often like to say we're basically trying to talk about factories that are fit for the future, because they are competitive, they have a good quality product, but they also take care of the environment and succeed environmental standards, and they also provide decent jobs, so the shared prosperity. Since I mentioned this Sustainable Development Goals, I want to highlight that the chemicals are reflected in many parts of the Sustainable Development Goals, in particular under the SDG 3, which goes on good health and well-being, where target 3.9 deals with substantially reducing the number of deaths and illnesses from hazardous chemicals and air, water, and soil pollution. And SDG 12, which is on sustainable consumption and production, talked about the environmentally sound management of chemicals and waste throughout their life cycle. However, it's quite clear that sound management of chemicals and waste cuts across the Sustainable Development Goals. And we see areas where the chemicals are contributing in health, sanitation, but also packaging, food processing, food safety, and so on, and other areas where chemicals are of concern if we talk about the environment. But we would like to talk about the industry opportunity, and as my colleague already indicated, that chemicals is really a powerhouse of Indian manufacturing. If I go by the UNIDO international standards on the industrial analytics platform, these are the top industries in manufacturing in India. You see, in terms of value added and export, chemicals is #1, and in terms of employment, it's #4, but the differences are quite small there. So I think that it's very clear that chemicals manufacturing is really a key strength of the Indian manufacturing sector. If I dig a little bit deeper, then we see that India is the sixth largest producer of chemicals in the world. It's highly diversified, estimated that it covers about 80,000 commercial products. And particularly the feature of the chemical manufacturing is the organic chemical synthesis, which is being done in clusters like Ankleshwar and others, which we have also on the call this afternoon. It's a strong presence, as amongst others, evidenced by producing 16% of the world production of dyestuffs and dye intermediates. There is a bit of a concern on the traditional reliance on more traditional process chemistries, and I'd say traditional, that is maybe the 20th century's process chemistries, which involve more hazardous substances, require more energy, materials and water, and produce also more waste and effluents. That is a bit of concern. As an opportunity area, I think that there's a strong chemical and engineering knowledge in the IITs, in the Institute for Chemical Technology and other areas that can be mobilized to modernize and green India's chemical industry. So we're talking about transformation to inclusive and sustainable chemicals manufacturing, and there we see in terms of the agenda that is there for industry has expanded over time from just being concerned about health and safety, so that there's no people are poisoned, to the more concern about environment and resources in a broader sense, contributes to climate change, where waste and effluents, to now the contributions to sustainable development. And in terms of ways of addressing this, we have traditionally seen that one option is to contain, so minimize exposure, but then certainly the next category is to kind of minimize the use of chemicals, and then ultimately the category is to substitute with safer chemicals. And these are really the areas which we would like to focus on the discussion this afternoon. So that it's, if we talk about containing and minimizing, that's more the area of manufacturing excellence. And if we talk about substitute, that is more the innovation area. So we drill down one level further than the manufacturing excellence, or you could call it apologize for pronunciation. It is really that we need now to clean out factories to zero out the avoidable losses. And there's still too many of those happening. And that if we do that, that improves profitability, improves also work and community well-being and health, and of course the environment. And basically we see from UNIDO's side that involves making factories more efficient, and that deals then mostly in terms of how they deal with natural resources, materials, energy, chemicals, water, more effective, so to make them more lean and demand driven, and to also make them more what I would refer to as mature or competent. That's the ability to anticipate and optimize. So let me elaborate on each of those three very briefly. So industrial resource efficiency is basically trying to increase resource efficiency. So basically producing more products per kilogram of raw material or per kilowatt hour of energy. So that's increased resource efficiency. And if we do that, we have less stuff to throw away. So we decrease the pollution intensity. So less wastewater per ton of product being manufactured. This is quite an established area, which is also internationally referred to as resource efficient and cleaner production. And myself, I've been involved for 25 years in India, and then there's different ways of doing that, starting with simple measures like good housekeeping or using alternative chemicals, to technology changes and recycling and other issues. So that's the technical solutions, which could then be supported by innovative business models, like UNIDO has been very much pushing the idea of chemical leasing. So rather than paying for kilogram of material that you use, pay for the actual amount of productive service that comes out. So that's the chemical leasing approach. Then the second main component of this manufacturing excellence, we see lean manufacturing. And lean is quite known. It makes inefficiency visual by focusing on zeroing out everything that the customer is not willing to pay for. So it's basically about wasted effort. So you do only in a factory what the customer values by means of paying more rupees or lakhs for that. And then in the terms of the approach is then to really focus on identifying value. So not so much on seeing the value coming into your factory as your inputs, but what's the value out of the outputs. Then you map your value stream, create flow, establish a pool, and pursue perfection. There's not much time to go into that, but then we have the traditional tools, which the toolbox, which are more around standardization of the workflows of visual factory, efficient workflow stations, which is the 5S, the 8 wastes, and then reducing also stoppage time, so faster exchanges between different products and productive maintenance. And then the third component I refer to as maturity or competency, and there we can see that now also is the introduction of more advanced technologies. We see 4 levels of maturity, so we can just see it, so that's the visibility, or we can understand what manufacturing processes are happening. The next step would be being prepared, so we can predict when machines will break down, or what changes in raw materials would cause in changes of product, and we can then adapt. And then the last one is really the adaptability, self-optimizing. And this maturity is, of course, It is driven by problem-solving skills, which can be at the individual level, but also at the team levels and at the systems level. And if we have then this problem-solving, that of course needs to be data-driven and as appropriate digitally enabled with the digital technologies, but that's not necessary to be there, and we need to put there as appropriate. But if we go to these higher levels of maturity, we talk then about what UNIDO refers to as advanced digital production or Industry 4.0. As my last slide, we link this to innovation opportunity. And I think in terms of innovation, we like to see that there is a more incremental innovation, which is happening because of learning and doing better what we did yesterday. There's the opportunity of adapting. So looking at technologies which are used in other sectors, can they be applied in chemicals manufacturing, or redefining and really starting from scratch with new manufacturing process. And that's the area that it's clearly in the area of green chemistry, green engineering. What UNIDO's observation has been very much that it is a challenge to make the innovation system work to realize those opportunities. In this regard, I might just mention that we are doing quite extensive with DST a manufacturing innovation survey to see how companies do innovate and how to get access to new technologies. And on the practical way, we work also with BE on a facility for low carbon technology deployment, on developing new technologies for resource efficiency, for waste heat recovery, and so on. I will not keep up much longer. I just want to drill down 3 points in closing. I think that if we talk chemical manufacturing in India, there is a sense of achievement. So indeed, chemical manufacturing is, we call the powerhouse or the engine room of Indian manufacturing. There are legitimate concerns that there are unfortunately still accidents and people are hurt or are exposed to hazardous chemicals, and we have impacts on the environment. And if we move on into the 21st century and towards the sustainable development goals, this has to be zeroed out. And then there's a degree for optimism, because there's opportunities in terms of new markets. There are more and more products and markets opening up where many chemicals are used in textiles and electronics and so on. And we are looking at new chemicals being developed and new technologies to make existing or these new chemicals. And then, of course, India is blessed with a solid knowledge and skills basis. So with that, I would like to close and hand back to Maitre for taking the procedures forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rene. And now I would request Dr. Yash Ramdev, Senior Advisor, UNIDO, and Mr. Keshav Das from UNIDO to facilitate Honorable Minister Shri Sadanand Gauraji.
Thank you. Maitre, can you take the proceedings forward?
I would would like to request Honorable Minister Shri Sadanand Gauraji for his inaugural address on the occasion.
Thank you. Shri H.S. Karangle, Director General, Indian Chemical Council, Dr. S.P. Mohanty, CMD HIL India Limited, Mr. Shyam Bang, Chairman FICCI Task Force on Manufacturing Excellence, Dr. Rene van Berkel, Regional Representative of UNIDO in India, respected dignitaries, distinguished panel members, industry representatives, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon to you all. I am delighted to be the part of this national dialogue on manufacturing excellence and innovation for competitiveness and sustainability of chemical manufacturing. I hope that today's agenda will witness rich deliberations on strategies and challenges required to push India ahead towards the 5 trillion economy as envisioned by the government under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Modi ji. The chemicals and petrochemical sector will play an important role in achieving this ambitious goal. The Indian chemical industry stood at $178 billion in 2019 and is expected to reach $304 billion by 2025. The demand for chemicals is expected to expand by 9% per annum by 2025. Achieving the industry's ambitious growth targets will require a combination of policy intervention, company-level initiatives, industry academic partnerships, wise investments, and greater international access. In this regard, I would appreciate if UNIDO supports domestic industry with international best practices and policy and technical assistance. Particularly India demonstrating its leadership in the global fight against the coronavirus pandemic and receiving appreciations from global communities for its efforts to bring much needed supply of the COVID-19 vaccines to the world market. Beyond vaccines, we have all experienced in our daily lives over the past 12 months the increased demands for pharmaceuticals, disinfectants, medical equipment, and personal protective equipment and the chemicals required for their manufacturing and use. I thank UNIDO for taking the initiative for raising dialogue on transforming the chemical industry sector of India into a more efficient, effective, and competitive growth engine. This has come at this critical juncture in time as we are all focused putting manufacturing, economy, and society back on track. I also thank industry partners for their active participation in this big event. The chemical industry's role as the key enabler of economic growth is well established worldwide. From the cell phone to solar panels producing carbon-free energy to LED lights providing efficient lighting, all are made possible by chemical industry products. In India, the chemical industry occupies a pivotal position in meeting basic needs and improving quality of life as well. The chemical sector, which is knowledge and capital intensive, is the mainly of industrial and agricultural development and provides building blocks for downstream industries such as textiles, papers, paints, soaps, detergents, and pharmaceuticals, among others. The fertilizer and agrochemical industries ensure food security and are thus vital to India's developing and agrarian economy. Likewise, the synthetic fiber industry is crucial to providing affordable clothing, and the pharmaceutical industry gives the country's vast population access to low-cost drugs. Chemical manufacturing is unfortunately often associated with the negative side effects, including industrial and chemical accidents, discharge of hazardous waste, effluents and emissions, and high energy use, and hence indeed harm to people, communities, and the environment. Select chemicals of concern have now been phased out under multilateral environmental agreements such as persistent organic pollutants and mercury, and more are likely to be added in the years to come. Good manufacturing practices are key for safe and productive operations. Innovations are leading to new chemicals, new processes, and new technologies that are inherently safe and require less energy, water, effluents, and emissions. There should also adequate focus on safety, and our companies should prioritize on developing mechanisms to preventive safety checks, and rapid accident response capabilities must be developed. It is important that in a manufacturing excellence journey, the Indian chemical industries do work across the three dimensions in parallel, that is operating systems, management in infrastructure, and mindsets and capabilities. Specialty chemicals is one of the area where there lies huge potential of growth. The past couple of decades have seen a significant shift in the manufacturing of chemical from European Union and North America to Asia, particularly in the specialty chemical space. The specialty chemical industry is estimated to grow faster in emerging markets such as China and India on the back of strong growth in end user industries. I feel that to become global hub for specialty chemicals, we need to focus on research and development. Industry needs to spend more on such activities. I have discussed with my secretary and officers on this issue. There is a need to make our research and development ecosystem stronger in order to come up with a newer, improvised products aligned with changing requirements of end user industries. Secondly, we need continuous supply of high-skilled manpower in this sector. I would urge industry captains to interact and collaborate more with the academic universities, say in areas like internships, course designing, sponsorship of research projects, etc. This would generate attraction of brilliant students toward this sector. Our government is committed to provide predictable, market-friendly policy framework to enable companies to take investment decisions. Besides providing stable government, NDA government under the visionary leadership of Shri Narendra Modi has taken host of structural reform measures since 2014, like introduction of simplified single tax system GST, insolvency and bankruptcy code, reduction in corporate tax to 22%, even lower rate of 15% for new companies up to March 2023, labor reforms like introduction of Shrama Suvidha portal, automatic route for FDI, intention to invest $1.5 trillion in infrastructure in the next 5 years, among others. This is good time to invest in India when government is focusing on increasing self-sufficiency in domestic production. You may be aware that India is looking forward to incentivize manufacturers through production-linked incentives and development of state-of-art infrastructure facilities to set up entire value chain of drug production in upcoming 3 bulk drug parks in India. There comes huge scope for specialty chemicals, as the expectation is to ensure domestic production right from key starting materials and active pharmaceutical ingredients. For chemicals and petrochemical sector, the budget proposals have been very, very encouraging. Announcements such as PLI scheme for key end sectors, setting up of 7 mega textile parks, doubling of outlay for micro irrigation, emphasis on infrastructure spending, new vehicle scrapping policy, reduction in import duty on feedstocks such as naphtha, increase in import duty on raw cotton, builder wear of plastics, MDI and polycarbonates have set the tone for rapid growth of the sector in the years to come. I would like to use this platform to thank Honorable Prime Minister and Honorable Finance Minister presenting a progressive and all-inclusive budget. I feel that today our domestic industry and investors are feeling much confident and optimistic in spite of an uncertain global situation and pandemic like COVID-19. I would like to underscore this nation that Atmanirbhar Bharat is not about closing India's doors, but opening them and having a greater global engagement. We need to understand it that self-reliance does not entail cutting ties with the rest of the world, but actually meant a larger role for Indian entrepreneurs, business, businesses, youngsters, and all stakeholders to become a part of resilient global supply chain. Ladies and gentlemen, despite the current pandemic situation, the Indian chemical industry has numerous opportunities. Indian companies and chemical industries should take advantage of the opportunity and bring about structural changes in the chemical industry. I have been saying that in order to steer the country into the path of rapid development, five things are highly important: intent, inclusion, investment, infrastructure, and innovation. I have confidence in India's talent and technology, innovation and intellect. I have confidence in India's scientists, policymakers, farmers, MSMEs, and entrepreneurs and industry leaders. Collectively, we can dedicate ourselves to the vision for making India the manufacture hub, ensuring that the country manufacture products which are made in India, but are not only made in India, but are made for the world. I invite everyone joining this national dialogue on manufacturing excellence and innovation in chemical sector and to be part of India's unfolding story. Thank you one and all. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir, for your enlightening words. And now I'd like to proceed to the next part of today's dialogue, the Leaders Roundtable. And before I request Dr. Rene to take over for moderation, I would quickly introduce the panelists for the discussion. We are pleased to have Shri Shyam Bang, Chairman, FICCI Task Force on Manufacturing Excellence and Director, Jubilant Life Sciences. Dr. S. Mohanty, Chairman and Managing Director, HIL India Limited. Shri Mahesh Patel, President, Ankaleshwar Industry Association. Ms. Bijal Vyas Matkar, Research and Innovation Director, Solvay Specialities India Private Limited. And Dr. Nitesh Mehta, Convener, Industrial Green Chemistry World and Founder Director of Nureka Green Syn Technologies. A very warm welcome to all panelists for the discussion, and we're pleased to have you. Now I would request Dr. Rene to take over moderating the Leaders Roundtable, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Lester, and also I would like to take the opportunity to thank the Minister very much for his encouraging words. I understand the Minister might have to leave, but I think it was very clear that there's a unique opportunity. There are many developments in end-user industries, specialized chemicals, pharmaceuticals, but also towards the electronics sector, and really also highlighting the 5 I's, as he was saying, of the intent, inclusion, infrastructure, investment, and innovation, which are really key elements to drive transformational change for the chemical manufacturing sector to move on a more sustainable and inclusive trajectory. So we've heard the Minister outline the government's perspective on development and growth of the chemicals manufacturing. And this complements, to a certain extent, my introductory remarks, where I came to the 3 points of an element of pride on achievements of the chemical sector so far, some areas of concern on the impact on health and the environment, and a degree of opportunism or optimism on solutions that could be brought forward. But I think that the challenge remains to mobilize the 5 I's, as the Minister was referring to, and to bring in the technical knowledge, the skills at all levels, and leverage investments. So we have the 5 panelists on board, who have much more experience in chemical industry than I can ever dream accumulating in my lifetime. So I will not take too much time away from that. I would just like to ask the panelists to basically in their introductory remarks of 5-6 minutes to maybe address the 3 points of what do they see as good practices and techniques that your organization has been able to adopt and that could be considered for others. So what lessons learned do you have that would be worthwhile for others? Looking then at the future, both the immediate COVID recovery as well as the longer term transition, what do you see as the biggest challenges? And what is that in terms of the perspective of what the ministers also outlined, the government's perspective of a 5 trillion economy with a 1 trillion, manufacturing sector? And then thirdly, what could be possible partnerships and policies that are necessary to achieve scale in the transition to sustainable chemicals manufacturing? So I would like to start with our esteemed Mr. Xiang Bang, who's currently chairman of the Task Force for Manufacturing Excellence, but indeed has for almost 4 decades of experience in the chemical sector, including with most of the time in the Jubilant Group. So Xiang Bang, may I ask you for some perspectives to start the conversation?
Thank you, Dr. Rene. Good afternoon to all the panelists and members present in this conference today. Chemical industry is probably more complex than what people can imagine about. There are business-wise, probably we can put them in 5 different verticals: refineries, fertilizers, petrochemicals, bulk chemicals, and specialty chemicals. And they are completely business sector-wise different businesses. Even at the government level, we have separate ministries for different these verticals, but they all come in the category of chemicals and chemical engineering and chemistry, what we talk about. Technology-wise, I would split this into 2 categories. The chemical processes, some of them are batch processes and some of them are continuous processes. So most of the large volume products like in refining industry, in the fertilizers, in petrochemicals and bulk chemicals, they mostly use continuous processes. And all the specialty chemicals probably are using these batch process technologies everywhere. And as we have been talking, we have almost like 80,000 different chemicals produced on the commercial scale globally. Probably not more than 5% or 10% of them are produced in the continuous process. So remaining 90-95% are produced in the batch process. So they are low volume, and so obviously there are a lot of chemicals, and that probably the area which really deserves more attention today. If you look at the continuous process plants, especially the refining industry, the petrochemical industry, the fertilizer industry, they have all mature technologies. They are because most of them, these plants are designed by the global engineering companies, and probably we all know all these global engineering companies who design chemical plants all over the world, the same people design the plants in India, and most of them are operating from India. In fact, all these global engineering companies have their offices in India, employing thousands of engineers to design chemical plants, not only in India, but also other countries all over the world. So that means the technologies and the engineering used by these continuous process plants are quite online with the rest of the world, I would say. Very in terms of quality of the product, in terms of productivity, in terms of efficiency, in terms of environment system, because the engineering is done by the same people all over the world. However, even in the continuous, in these large capacity plants, there's a scope to improve, because some of those plants are standing there for the last 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. And over the period of time, if the technologies have improved, technologies have changed, there's a need for these people also to upgrade their technologies, upgrade their facilities, and come to the level of today's technology. Whereas if you look at the batch process plants, the whole specialty chemical sector, which includes the pharmaceuticals, which includes dyes and intermediates, which includes textile auxiliaries, paints, I mean, all kinds of specialty polymers and so many different things. Now, these plants, the technologies for these chemicals are not really traded globally. Many of them are patented. Many of them are protected technologies. They are low volume products. So most of these are technologies developed in-house by the companies, They are engineered also sometimes by within the company resources or by the outside engineering companies. And they would have a lot of variations from company to company. And they probably, these are the plants where we see a lot of scope to improve. The other typical thing about the chemical industries is there is no brand value for the chemicals. Unlike all other products, when you buy shoes or television or automobiles, there is some brand value attached to the product. Whereas for chemicals, there is no such brand value. So everybody has to meet the specifications. The customer doesn't pay you a penny extra for your brand. Whether company X is producing this product or company Y is producing this product, they don't care for that. You meet the specifications and compete on the price. So that's why the chemical industry is very, very competitive, any product you take it. The other challenge associated with the chemical industry is the logistics cost. The bulk chemicals, what is the distance they have to travel, the raw materials coming to the factories and the finished product going to the end market. And that is why some of the bulk chemicals have seen limited growth in the country. The basics have really grown, refining and fertilizer, but the bulk chemicals, there is one segment in between which has not grown because the feedstock is not available in the next door, and people have preferred to import them from Saudi Arabia, other places where the feedstock is there, and people have done the value addition and started exporting those bulk chemicals like vinyl acetate, acetic acid, styrene, butadiene, those kinds of chemicals. Other thing which has affected the bulk chemical industry is the free trade agreements with the neighboring countries. And that's probably has also blocked the growth of bulk chemical industry in some of these sectors. The specialty chemical industry has grown in the country. There is no doubt it has grown significantly. And as it was pointed earlier by Dr. Rene and also by the minister, it has really brought good exports value for the country, contributing to almost 15% of our total exports in terms of value is done by the chemicals exports. So that's a fantastic, phenomenal achievement by the chemical sector, I would say. And that is why looking at that achievement that has been done so far, we can see an opportunity for the further growth in that segment there. And certainly the approach that many industries have taken, and my personal experience in the past, I would say, and whatever industries talk about, one is, of course, the technology upgrade. The industry must look at the technology upgrade, because your plant was, whenever it was set up 5 years back, 10 years back, 20 years back, over a period of time, the technologies must have changed. Otherwise, tomorrow somebody else will come with a different technology and you will lose your business. Now that can be happening with your in-house R&D. If you do not have in-house R&D, also look at what's happening in the rest of the world, and can you outsource that from somewhere else, from the education, academic institutions, science institutions, or from technology supplier. The other important parameter is the quality systems in the company. Now, quality systems is very important. I mean, we need to understand all the operating systems in the company. The quality systems would include everything, whether it is a system for purchase, whether it is a system for manufacturing, whether it's a system for maintenance, whether it's a system for quality control. So all different systems for different functions in the company have to be written down, and what we call as the standard operating procedures. And there has to be a quality assurance team in the company, which is completely independent of the quality control and the production team, so that they have full authority to say this is right and this is wrong. Otherwise, people try and club all functions together and say we have quality control and quality assurance together, which doesn't really give good results. The quality assurance must be a separate team, independent of quality control and the production team. Then we should also have an internal audit system in the company. The internal audit, of course, people do understand in terms of financial internal audit, but I want to extend an internal audit also to all our commercial transactions and on our technical operations. And each and every technical operation must also be audited, And through these audits will come out the deviations from the SOPs. We take it for granted that we have a SOP, so people are following the SOP. But unfortunately, that's not the reality on the shop floor. People take deviations, and therefore this audit is very essential so that these deviations are recorded and they are brought on the table for discussions. The other parameter I would say is quality by design. So right at the design stage, people should design the plants in a way to get the right quality of product, the right efficiency, the environmental issues are addressed at that stage itself, the safety issues are addressed at that stage itself. So the quality by design, when we say, otherwise you try and due to the limitation on investment or for whatever reason, due to lack of your vision, to design a plant and then you have no resources to really modify or upgrade it any later on, and you remain in that defensive kind of a system. Sometimes you are not able to cope up with the demand. The other most important parameter for the chemical industry is the scale of operation. As I said, the majority of the chemicals which are produced in batch operations, and especially very applicable to India, is many people have started with very small capacities. And that small capacities factor really affects your efficiency, affects your quality. And therefore, it's very important to have larger scale plants. We must, without loss of time, expand that capacity, come to a maybe reasonable capacity, which can, of course, it will vary from product to product. When you have larger capacity, you are able to get a good quality product. Your operations can be designed to be safer. You can invest in byproduct recoveries. You can invest in solvent recoveries. You can invest in catalyst recoveries. And that all brings economics in the process. That all makes it more competitive, reduces your cost of production. And therefore, bringing that scale of operation to certain reasonable level is very, very important. That increased capacity can then justify the investment also. You can invest in good machines, you can invest in good people, you can invest in automation, and therefore the small capacities plants must look at expanding their capacity and take it to a reasonable level. The other issues are when you talk of the labor productivity, the capital productivity, these are also unfortunately low numbers in the country. And therefore we talk of taking initiatives, what we call as manufacturing excellence initiatives. And with that, in fact, really my personal experience of all my life, I created this task force in FICCI, the Task Force for Manufacturing Excellence, and we are running this campaign with the industry's participation, different initiatives that one can take for the manufacturing excellence. Normally, everybody thinks that's a human ego. Every entrepreneur, every manager thinks that I'm doing a good job. My quality is very good. My efficiency is very good. But then this self-assessment keeps you in dark. Therefore, one must really do that evaluation. Where do I stand? And there's an established mechanism of evaluating your own performance. There are set parameters well defined to assess. How do you assess your performance? And on each of the parameter, you can measure your performance. You can keep a benchmark. Either you take those benchmarks from the competitor, or you can create your own benchmarks. Identify the gap between the benchmark and your own performance, and then take the programs to bridge those gaps. And that's how it leads to the improvement in performance. These systems, again, the one of the important parameters is how do you really, the parameter like you talk about inclusion today, all employees in the company must have access to that information, to the SOPs, should be available to everybody. It's not it's kept in the library or kept in the computer and people have no access to it. It should be easily accessible to people so that they can understand it better. And there are many things, such initiatives one can take for every batch, create a proper batch records, monitor the deviations, create as much data as you can. And that's what that data generation also helps you in analyzing your performance, where do you stand. Other important parameter like maintenance, for example, a very grossly ignored function in the company is taken like a back-end support, but I give very importance and big importance to maintenance also. Measure your performance. I mean, there are many parameters to measure on that. Measure your OE, OPE when we talk of these parameters. And
So,
based on that,
may I ask you to wrap up?
yeah, I'm just closing now. And once you have analyzed all these things and identify those areas of improvement, then take program for small improvements at a time, maybe 2% improvement, 4% improvement. We don't talk of 20%, 50% improvement suddenly all of a time at one time. So that 2%, when you take a 2% target, the entire team in the company accepts it willingly. When you take 20% target, it's like impose something on from the top management. So we take 2% improvement in a year, 4% improvement, and that's how year after year we keep on improving, and what we call as a continuous improvement model. And that's what probably will certainly lead to the manufacturing excellence what we talk about. So I'll stop here right now. Maybe we can talk again a little bit later. This is just as an introduction. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jan. And I didn't want to interrupt because all your points you make are very valid. I think you perfectly pointed out the large difference between the continuous processing and the batch processing, and what in terms of technology challenges. You also highlighted the point of quality by design. So if the design of the factory is not right, you're mopping up from day one, so to speak, and also really saying the elements of manufacturing excellence. And don't think immediately about big steps, but a lot of small steps can also get you a long way in terms of improving. So thank you very much for that. I would like to move on to, we have two chemical manufacturers on the panel and two innovators. So I would like to start with the manufacturers. So I go to my colleague, Dr. Mohanty from Hill, India. Maybe the floor is yours, Dr. Mohanty, to speak about good practices, the challenges you see, and the partnerships that are necessary.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Dr. Patel and all respected panelists. Am I audible?
Yes, it's perfectly audible. Thank you.
So since today my secretary is not there and my additional secretary was busy with some other cabinet meeting, so I will be taking both the parts together. What is the government doing about chemical industry to make the business forward, and also what is HIL doing in this context. So first, to start with the HIL, we are the agrochemical manufacturing industry. We are engaged in manufacturing of agrochemicals as well as public health, and we are under the Ministry of Chemical and Fertilizer. We are the single PSU, the only PSU which is manufacturing agrochemical in the country. As far as the chemical industry is concerned, very recently we had one India came, you might have heard that last month we have gone through that. We have got dialogues between India, US, India, Japan, and India, EU also. And it has been concluded in that also that next coming 10 years is the champion sector, that will be the chemical industry will be the champion sector for India itself, to make India self-reliant in this direction. After COVID, actually, COVID-19 has given a lot of thought to government also to think about this sector, and government has gone up with so many policies regarding this. As far as government's policy is concerned, government has gone ahead with the PCPIR, that is Petrochemical and Petroleum Investment Region, that they have already announced the policy reforms they have announced, the common ATP facility for the manufacturing excellence to go ahead with all common facilities so that industry can go ahead with PCPIR region. That is available in, of course, two PCPIR region has taken up very well, one in Dahej, another in Paradip in Odisha, and Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, both the regions are on the way of taking off. In Odisha, plastic park has also come up very well in that region, and we are going to go ahead with some type of advantage schemes for the industry to go for the plastic park region. And as far as another scheme also under consideration, that is, you might have heard that already PLI for pharma sector Honorable Minister has addressed that PLI for pharma sector has already been announced, which will give boost to the chemical industry to go for the downstream manufacturing of the pharma sector. And with that also, we have gone for product link incentive scheme for chemicals also. It is under discussion and for the finalization stage. Once it is done, then it will give more opportunity for the industry to go ahead for excellence in the industrial area, as well as also it will give financial benefits for the any industrialist to go ahead with the new specialty chemicals in India. And also, as far as safety is concerned, government is also planning to have a common disaster management facility for all chemical companies, whatever is situation like. That if you see that whatever the facilities each company is having, government is making a data bank of that, and to make a common facility that in any phone call, any industry can take advantage of those facility in case of disasters. So that will be one of the best idea which we will be taking off very shortly. As far as agrochemical is concerned, we have after COVID-19, actually the agrochemical industry has gone ahead with a backward integration plan, because we have seen that due to the logistic disruption and also due to COVID-19, India has lost many of the manufacturing facilities due to the non-availability of raw material from China and other countries as such. So every company is now thinking in that line of N-1 or N-2 to that stage, so that we can go ahead with the backward integration of all the agrochemical sector. And as far as growth of agrochemical sector is concerned, it's increasing around 9% to 10% every year. So there is a huge scope in India as far as agrochemical is concerned. And if we see the consumption of agrochemical in India is only 460 gram, whereas in the developed countries you will find it's to the tune of 11 kg per hectare. So there is a huge market, huge domestic market is there, but only as my previous speaker Dr. Bhang has told, that the perception management that is lacking in India. Once you go for chemicals, similarly we are also facing the same thing in agrochemical industry, because the pesticides industry known as a poisonous industry, but the perception itself is so difficult to handle in this country. That has to be actually addressed in this type of forums, because as the pharmaceutical sector manufactures the medicine for the human beings, similarly the agrochemical sector manufactures medicine for the plants. It's the plant medicine itself. But only that perception, due to the lack of that perception, the market is shrinking, or the perception, due to that perception, negative perception, this total agrochemical industry is suffering on that respect. So in India came also, we had discussed, I am also co-chairman of FICCI Crop Protection Committee. So we are taking up this issue to go ahead with perception management about the agrochemical sector, so that there is a huge gap, and but this gap can be covered up by taking ahead this good manufacturing practices. During this COVID period, as far as HIL is concerned, yes, as Dr. Bhang has told, that we have gone for the entire digitization of the process, which has created a robust system in my company itself. We have eradicated maximum paperwork. We have gone for entirely e-office, entirely ERP, all the systems in line, so that the transparency model can be produced in this company, and we can go ahead with the industry 4.0 in future in that case. And I will say that by 2022, in international arena, there are around 26 patented chemicals, agrochemicals, which is going off patent. And if we see the worth of this 26 chemical comes to nearly 7 billion. So there is a huge opportunity coming, because India is the highest generic producer market, is the fourth largest producer of agrochemical. So generic production and generic market in India is very high. So we are looking forward to take opportunity out of that. And as far as R&D is concerned, yes, there is a push from ministry itself to make more and more industry and academia connection with respect to the R&D. And that factor we are taking, an innovation fund also government of India has allotted to chemical sector also, that also HIL is roped in. We have got this facilitation committee for this innovation cell in chemical ministry itself. Now we are going to make use of those funds for future R&D, and we are confident that India has got a technical know-how or technical manpower very well who can take over all those R&Ds forward into the international standard itself. With this, again, I will stop here because there are so many other questions in the latter part we can take over.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Mohanty, but maybe I won't let you go before asking a question to maybe elaborate a little bit also on the work you do with UNIDO. So maybe some words on the innovations that are taking place in that regard.
Yes, sorry, I missed your point in that in my inaugural speech, this introductory speech. Yes, we are very well tied up with UNIDO under the GEF. This first project of our this long-lasting insecticidal net in public sector, public health sector has already in the line, and it's well accepted by the ministry and it's doing very well. The next, regarding the sustainability of the agrochemicals, we are going for the neem-based pesticides and botanical larvicides with the help of UNIDO. Those projects are also in the pipeline, which will be by 2021 end or 2022 mid. We will be getting both the plants ready, and we will be going for biopesticides, this botanical neem-based pesticides and botanical larvicides, which is a partnership with the UNIDO. And I must thank UNIDO that they have come up with latest technologies for this. They are assisting HIL in this regard, and we are thankful to UNIDO for giving this ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mohanty. I thought this was interesting to share here. And I think also your other points were clearly there, that there's an issue of perception management, and which is maybe also a reflection of past practices more than current concerns. But of course, this needs to be addressed. And then also the issues of the significant growth potential. If we want to beef up and modernize the agricultural sector, then there will be many opportunities for agrochemicals. So thank you very much. I would then like to go to our third panelist, Sri Mahesh Patel from Ankleshwar Industry Association. So, Mr. Patel,
yes, sir.
The floor is yours.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Respected Honorable Minister Sri Goda sir, Secretary sir, and all panelists. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mahesh Patel, past President, Ankleshwar Industry Association. My new coming President, Ramesh Patel, here, and retired GPCB officers A. Dolti, CEO of Ankleshwar Waste Management Center. Good afternoon, sir. Now we start. You listening to me?
Yes, go ahead.
Audible?
Yes, you are perfectly audible, and thank you for introducing your partners there as well. It's great to see the delegation.
Thank you, sir. You give me chance for presentation.
Yes, go ahead.
Innovation of India.
Yes.
And our first point is good practice and technique that our organization has been able to adopt and could be considered by industry peers.
Yes.
Following party practice are adopted in the Ankleshwar cluster: Ankleshwar, Panoli, Jagadia, other cluster, Bharuch. Next. Next.
Yeah, we cannot see this. We cannot see the slides.
First, sir, our
yeah, the slides you need to share.
Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
We are unable to share the slides. Please give the authority to us.
Rights is already given. You may try.
You may try again.
Jignesh ne bola?
Yes, yes,
Sir, presentation is clear now?
No, it's not all visible.
Yes, one minute, wait, sir.
Yes, there we go. It's coming.
हाँ और देखा है जो
Jignesh ne bola?
Please go ahead.
देखा है sir?
Yes, we can see.
See, okay. Our in Ankleshwar estate is developed in 1974 and all adopt concept of environment, common environment infrastructure facility, CETP, first CETP in Ankleshwar in India, TSDF site, spray dryer, incinerator, boiler, pre-processing facility, DPMC, provide effluent disposal line, pipeline for deep sea discharge throughout 53 kilometer, out of which 43 kilometer pipeline onshore and 10 offshore, and inauguration by PMO Narendra Modi sir. Install continuous ambient air monitoring system. Each industry are provide ETP and well as air pollution measurement system. Provide sewage treatment plant for resident colony in estate. Provide separate drainage network for industrial effluent and stormwater drainage. And disaster prevention management center developed supported by government of Gujarat. Our second point is looking forward to immediately COVID recovery, thereafter reservation of return up to growth. Where do you see a main challenging of the chemical manufacturing sector? Our second point, third point and fourth point are included present now. Bharuch district have mega chemical cluster like Ankleshwar, Jagadia, Panoli, Dahej, Vilayat, Saikha and Dahej Sis. Present policy of development of industries and social infrastructure should be revamped, and past policy for development should be restored immediately so as to reduce the capital investment cost burden of industries. At present, the state government organization GLC in Gujarat is demanding 100% contribution in advance for water supply, common effluent treatment plant, conveyance system, drainage network, electrification cost from the intending industry. While the past policy, all such type of infrastructure were developed by GLC, a government, cost thereof were recovered from the industry इन इंस्टॉलमेंट. सर उसमें क्या है कि गुजरात में जब डेवलपमेंट हुआ तब गवर्नमेंट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलप करके देती थी और बाद में इंस्टॉलमेंट के रूप से रिकवर करती थी, तो वो पॉलिसी री इम्प्लीमेंट करनी चाहिए. इंडस्ट्रीज ऑफ भरूच डिस्ट्रिक्ट इज बेडली एक्सपीरियंसिंग प्रोडक्शन लॉस ड्यू टू फ्रीक्वेंट पावर फेलर एंड interpretation to ensure uninterrupted the quality power supply to the industries. The government should take initiative to convert the existing overhead electric line network to underground network. Fourth point, new initiative policy for restarting closed unit, whether by the same owner or others, should be introduced instead of the penalized industry so as to save resource and asset. All decision and policy regarding industries should be taken in consultation with the local stakeholder industry association industry. New policy or law for the tax compensation of village panchayat should be introduction to avoid dual taxation charge and conflict between industries and village. At the time of formation of any committee by the government or its department for study or recommendation, only the person studies in the same sector field should be considered as a member of such committee. report of NLab approved laboratories should be considered equivalent to report of NIO, NIRI and CMSR rather than facing industries for the report of this institute. उसमें क्या है सर, जो डीप सी स्टडी तीनों इंस्टीट्यूट करते हैं, अभी एनालैब करेंगे तो अपने को रियलिटी मालूम पड़ेगी. टू facilitate export of the region, ICD Ankleshwar should be upgraded, make availability of LCL stuffing and other facility, also increase frequency of good train at Ankleshwar. Past postgraduate Department of Science facility, faculty of universities should be converted into process development center to support industry to competitiveness and environmental preservation on commercial basis. All common project stakeholder which avail benefit of the government grants should be registered under Section 8 of the Companies Act, means no profit, no loss functioning. All environment project no profit, no loss में ही implement करने चाहिए. Objective of the all special act like Factories Act should be protected and no other act should be allowed to interfere without request of concerned component authority of Factory Act. Accident time पे सर क्या है, पुलिस डिपार्टमेंट भी 304 कलम लगाता है और जीपीसी भी उसको क्लोज कर देता है यूनिट को. ये नहीं करना चाहिए. Environmental law of the country are found to be good and it is the responsibility of such each citizen to follow them strictly so as to conserve the environment. But the industries are not happy with the style of enforcement of policies of environment law. Instead of many report like EIA and other, the government should stipulate only the discharge standard of liquid, solid and gases, and they require to be followed strictly by the industry as well as the government agency. If the industry want relaxation in the stipulated standard, then report like EIA and other relevant procedure need to be followed. All existing environment policies of MOF and CPCB need to be revised in consultation with the stakeholder industries and association. At the time of intervention by the Honorable NGT, the government should play key role in representing the viewpoint of the industries and convincing to the Honorable NGT. Deep sea discharge should be encouraged and for the required infrastructure should be developed by the government. The maintain ambient air quality present zero liquid discharge policies should be discontinued and treatment facilities should be enhanced.
Mr. Patel, may I ask you to wrap up in another 1.5 to 2 minutes?
Okay, sir. Only 2 points remaining.
Okay, good.
Maintain the ecology of coastal area, massive mangrove plantation. Our suggestion is that, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you for the points made. I think you highlight a lot of points which were basically also by Mr. Banga already highlighted, that the industry starts small and then becoming larger creates also the challenges in terms of the enabling policy and infrastructures, and Baruch has now become really an industrial city or chemical manufacturing hub. and that was never as such well planned in advance. So there is a need to catch up and create the infrastructure for growth in terms of power, the policy, quality, and other laboratories and so on. I also, coming myself from universities, I very much appreciate your suggestion to see how can this postgraduate study centers be made more useful to the industries and be more like process development centers to help the industries to improve their chemical synthesis and batch reactions. So that's very, very much appreciated. Thank you very much. I would like to go then to the following two.
On mail, sir.
Sorry. Yes, so I
We
would
provide
like...
our total presentation and detail, give you UNIDO
Yes.
and petrochemicals, sir. Okay.
Yes, we will include that in the proceedings. So thank you very much. So
Okay.
then I would
Okay,
like
sir.
to.
Thank you.
Then I would like to go to Bijal Vias Matkar. Sorry to pronounce the name is a bit of a challenge, but she's Research and Innovation Director from Solvay Specialties. We've already heard quite a lot of specialties, and Solvay is in the business of doing this. So maybe you can give a more perspective of the development of new chemicals and the Solvay story. So our floor is yours, Bijal.
Thank you, Dr. Rene. Good afternoon. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, perfect.
Thank you. So respected Dr. Rene, dignitaries on the dais, though, virtually today. So, this is what COVID world has made us do. And my fellow panel members, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you. I am Bijal Matkar. I am, by training, I'm a chemical engineer. And by choice, I'm a believer in a greater purpose. And, that was the reason that when I joined Solvay, which is a 156-year-old company, I was very motivated with the motto of our founder, Ernest Solvay, who says that from science, we will derive the progress of mankind. So Solvay is wider known in the chemical fraternity as for Solvay ammonia soda process. But in the last 156 years, we have come a long way. And what I would do in the next 5 or 6 minutes or so is to give a global perspective of Solvay and then, see what are we doing in India to walk the talk, right? So basically, in the last half an hour or so and, over the decades, very relevant points have been made. And I was able to relate to so many aspects of what was just said because I spent most of my career in manufacturing and technology management. And only in the last couple of years, I shifted my domain to innovation from technology, like technology in the manufacturing plant. So I'm going to take like the first topic on challenging of the COVID, like the challenges the COVID situation has presented to us. And I think we all agree that these challenges are both on the macro and the micro side. So macro, everybody of us is facing challenges in terms of manpower. We are facing challenges with respect to logistical issues all across the globe, cash flow, shift in paradigm shift in the consumer mentality. A consumer who needed like 5 different things a day today is looking for more of a sanitization situation to keep their own self safe. But also on the micro side, which I'm facing is like, I manage a site for Solvay. And the thing that I'm facing at this moment is first and foremost is to keep our people safe and make sure that the families trust us, right? Because at the end of the day, we are industry, we are chemical, but we are humans. So it's very important that our people feel safe with us. But other than that, it's very important as well on the challenges front is to plan day to day. So, we sometimes have to go into micro managing, which I don't like generally, but we have to do a micro managing because that's a call of the hour. You don't know what tomorrow is going to bring for us. So these are some of the things which not only the chemical sector, but everybody else is facing. And what we have done at Solvay to overcome this is we are putting back the pieces of the puzzle one by one. I know that once the puzzle is formed and we are out of this pandemic, it's not going to be the same like what it started with. But at the same time, I think there was a very good point made on perceptions, right? So you need to take a dipstick analysis of what we are. What was true a couple of years back is not true. And we need to revisit our long-term goals, both in terms of technical and in terms of commercial aspects. One of the things that we did at Solvay is convert one of our semi-works into an inorganic chemical manufacturing very quickly, over like, almost overnight, because it was producing inorganic chemicals for, testing kits during COVID. So I think that adaptability and keeping your innovation pipeline alive is even more important at this moment, because we need to reorganize our reappropriate sources and right people at right place. And be a very have a very agile approach in this. Some of the segments that we said that, what if Solvay or Solvay, what Solvay is doing. So Solvay is also present in manufacturing sector in India, and we have our plants in Maharashtra and in Gujarat. In fact, we have one of our specialty chemical plants in Panoli in the district of Bharuch. Health and hygiene is going to be remaining on the top for us, not just because of the COVID situation, but that is something that Solvay believes in general on sustainable shared value for all. So some of our products, they go into the dialysis for kidney dialysis, and we recently innovated a product which is known as Actizone, which keeps the viruses and the bacteria off for 24 hours. So prevents them from coming back for 24 hours. So this is not like a marketing pitch for Solvay. What I'm just trying to say is what science can do for sustainability and progress of humankind. Along with health and hygiene, we have IoT, because we all we are connected today the way we are, right? So IoT is very, very important for us. What's also important is the food and the agro market. So we have our manufacturing plants in Maharashtra, which is into agrochemical production and formulations. So basically seed enhancement and better yields per hectare, and naturally healthy seeds basically. What else we are focusing on at this moment is natural resources. So we have very heavy targets of reducing the intake of our natural resources and recycling what we are already using in the manufacturing sector. And the research and innovation, or R&D as we call it at Solvay, is very much in line with this business aspect. So we have sustainability goals at the starting of the project itself. If my project is not sustainable, if my molecule is not sustainable, we do not pursue that activity. So for example, we recently came up with a product called Cyanix, which is part of the mining industry. And this product actually helps in recycling the brine, which is used for metal extraction. So look at the huge amount of brine that you can recycle, so you don't have to take it from the fresh source, right? So this is where innovation directly combined with application makes a difference in the chemical sector, because we all agree that we cannot not have a chemical starting from a toothbrush in the morning to a cup of tea in the evening, right? What is it that the best practices I would like to share, and I think I'm very proud to work for Solvay for certain aspect, and one of them is safety of the people. We believe in that. That's our core. And the second thing is also something which we call as One Planet. So we have three aspects of One Planet, which is climate, resources, and well-being of the people. And what we have, they are aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals of UN, but also recently the part of, just 5 days back, we had this release from the World Council on the Sustainable Development 2050 vision, and they are aligned. Our CEOs are aligned with that as well. So just to give an example, even in just Panoli, we have 800 kilowatts of solar power being generated at the site. And in Germany, one of the sites, we are sourcing the biomass energy from the local community to be used in the plant. So, energy consumption, and I can go on and on. One more thing which I would really like to highlight is responsible sourcing. So in Rajasthan, we source guar, because I know guar is a starting material for a lot of formulations, and it is biosourced. We have actually taken those villages, and we are actually running a CSR there. So where the women are encouraged to have their own economy set up, the girls are given education, and the whole villages are self-reliant. So we are not just buying, we're not just sourcing, but we are responsibly sourcing in such cases. All in all, for the benefit of time, I would like to conclude in terms of policy. So I know that the best thing that you can ask for the government, or you can ask from FICCI or ICC at this moment, is give me incentives or give me sponsorships. This is the easiest thing to do. But I think two things which I would like to definitely touch base on is one, what we call as, the culture of responsible capitalism. And what I mean by responsible capitalism is we already talked about joint ventures being formed. We already talked about GIDCs coming together and having one treatment. I mean, I'm based out of a GIDC in Vadodara, and we have common goals. But at the same time, bringing the like-minded people together, bringing the CEOs and the who's and who of the industry, and really getting them to sign on this greater purpose that we have, because we are here for profit. Obviously, we have to keep the business running. We are here to, employ people, give them a good life. But at the same time, I think somewhere we need to start thinking about the responsible capitalism because pre-COVID capitalism is going to be different than the post-COVID. And I would really request, representatives from ICC or FICCI to think about this arm of signing the way we have the sustainable development goals, signing, people coming together, signing up, and learning from each other, leveraging each other best practices instead of having to reinvent the wheel at every nook and corner of such a big country. And the second thing, and I would stop after that, which I would like to suggest here is that India has a huge population, and I don't think that we have really taken the full advantage of this population's thought process. I mean, today when I walk into any society, every fifth or sixth house has a solar panel on the top. But when we talk about things like cradle to grave or circular economy, they are still very big words for a common man. And this common man comes to the plants. This common man comes to my site and works for me. So I think we need to really translate them into more of a layman language term, have actual campaigns like the Swachh Bharat campaign or the things, Educate Your Girl Child campaign. So campaign which normally people are able to touch and feel in their daily lives. And we Indians are taught sustainability right from the home, like don't waste your food, your toys are recycled when you're growing up. So these things need to be there in the translated to the DNA of them and the blood of the people, so that we are able to, because instead of a top-down approach, it becomes bottom-up. And knowing into the innovation aspects and the ideation capability of Indians, I'm sure that it would be a great transformation countrywide if we translate this aspect of green all the way to the last Indian of 1.3 billion population. So having said that, I again, Rika, thank you for the opportunity. And I know that these are tough times. So I really wish that all of you and yours remain safe and come out of this pandemic in the best of health and happiness. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bijal. Very, very much appreciated. And I mean, you made the point, the promise at the beginning of your presentation. You're a chemical engineer, but you're also a believer. You made that very clear. And also, we're making a call for basically business leaders to adopt responsible business practices and take a commitment towards climate society as a driving paradigm. And that's also the work that Solvay also globally has been doing with the World Business Council for Sustainable Development and others. So that's very much applauded. And also the issue of translating it into layman's language. So we've been able to translate the solar panels, but there's many other sustainability challenges which we have to translate still into layman's language to get engagement and start moving the industries and also the workforce and the communities around us. So thank you very much for that. And then I go to our last panelist, Nitesh Mehta from the Eureka Clean Tech Solutions, or how you call it, synthesis solutions. So we can go different ways, but he's the man behind the India Green Chemistry expositions and summits. Been running that for the last 10 years, I think, 12 years. So very much appreciate, Nitesh, that you can still join us, even though you're still in a recovery mode. So the floor is yours, Nitesh.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So thank you, UNIDO, as well as DCPC for this opportunity to be here and join this very senior and distinguished panel of speakers. So I, as Rene said, I represent two organizations here. One is a for-profit organization called Eureka Green Synth Technologies. We are like a 65 people organization, and we offer green chemistry and green engineering and sustainability solutions to the chemical industry. I also represent a non-profit organization called Green Chemistry Foundation, where we've been representing or engaging with various stakeholders to promote green chemistry and sustainability in the chemical industry, so that chemical industry is a kind of inspiring place to be in, instead of what the general perception is. So just a few comments to start off with. One, as Rene said, on manufacturing excellence. We believe that manufacturing excellence is more about two aspects. One, I would call it more like an internal pillar, which is like the culture of the organization, something that you have imbibed very deep inside in the DNA of the organization. How is it that I, as an organization, treat environment? How do I treat safety of my people? How do I treat the community around me, and how safe the people around me living around my plant are? So that kind of for me, is the one of the strong internal pillar to achieve manufacturing excellence, is the culture that I set into my organization. How much my team members at all various departments really respect safety, environment, and health, and follow various operative practices with a certain high level of integrity, so that manufacturing excellence shows up on the outside if this is there in the background. We do see a lot of multinational companies and large Indian chemical companies kind of adopting these practices. However, we all know that as an MSME, we are kind of a bit lacking behind, and we might have hundreds of reasons why we cannot focus so much on environment, health, and safety. And it could be our low margins, it could be resource constraints that we have, and n number of reasons. But the way as MSMEs we overcome all different challenges, I think this is something that is cannot be compromised on. And as MSMEs, I think it's high time, like large Indian companies, even MSMEs, as an MSME, we start getting into practices of environment, health, and safety, and those kind of operative systems, so that we are able to, and we along, and not only as an organization, but each and every team member at the ground core level is able to respect environment, health, and safety as much as we do as an organization. I think another point about MSMEs is, while we talk about a lot of constraints, and they are genuine constraints, but if we are committed to be a very strong supply chain partner to the large chemical companies as well as multinational companies, I don't think that there is an option but to start bringing environment, health, and safety as the focus in the organization culture. And I think that is something which would form the stepping stone for manufacturing excellence to show up in our operations. I think the second, so this was more of an internal pillar that I wanted to talk about. The second pillar, which I believe is like an external pillar, is how do we leverage the kind of collaborations that are available to us externally to bring in this manufacturing excellence part of it. So there are, we have academic research institutions, we have industry peers from which we can learn. We, as of right now, don't really have a very strong collaborative culture, while CIIs and FICIs are doing a massive amount of work around a whole bunch of initiatives, including responsible care and stuff like that. But still, somewhere from a mindset point of view, and Mahesh Bhai would agree with me, he has been at the set of place Ankleshwar, which is full of entrepreneurs. We really don't have a very strong collaborative model between MSMEs. And we don't really have a very strong culture of learning from each other, which I think could be a very, is just in a very healthy spirit of making everybody and the entire industry competitive. And so if that is something that we can inculcate as an industry, chemical industry would go a long way in terms of this external collaboration. The second part of collaboration, I am a very, very strong advocate of industry and research academic institution collaborations. And there are countries like China and US who have done wonders by such kind of collaborations. And it's just that we have not figured out a very healthy and a very, I would say, progressive way of interacting, way of communicating, figuring out models, figuring out project management systems and stuff like that with the research and academic institutions, so that we could, while actually there is a very automatic, very visible synergy. You've got MSMEs, which is the backbone of our entire industry, whom we are counting as a supply chain. And this industry, obviously, because of its constraints, doesn't have its own R&D. So obviously, the research and the research institutes actually happen to be a very natural collaborators, because you are bringing in two synergistic, strength. You've got SMEs who don't have R&D strength, and there are research and academic institutions who are sitting with R&D strength. The research and academic institutions, I do agree, have those aspects of some practical aspects and industrial implementation aspect that is missing, but that's what the industry can bring in. It's a very natural collaboration, but it's just that we have not figured out very great models of collaborating there, and that's where we are probably unable to leverage this big piece of strength that we are currently sitting on with so many CSIR labs across the country, which we could use to innovate. Or maybe there are already a lot of innovations lying there, but we are not currently using it to bring into manufacturing excellence in our companies. The two places, one thing Rene wanted to talk about is the places where we see as massive opportunities. From the perspective of the business that we are into, I see opportunity in the domain of environment and sustainability across the value chain, right from the starting point of moving from petroleum-based feedstock to renewable resources and renewable feedstocks. Right from that kind of point to using green chemistry and green engineering for process innovation, so that overall the generation of waste itself is reduced at the source. Innovation and opportunities over there. Opportunities towards end of the pipe treatment in terms of recovery of water, recycle of water, recovery of chemicals that we are losing or raw materials that we are losing in the waste streams, and then trying to go for end of the pipe treatment, and then at the end of the day ensuring that even some amount of heat and whatever can be recovered out of that. So across the value chain, right from the beginning of sourcing basic feedstock coming from renewable sources right up to end of the pipe treatment, I see continuous kind of opportunity everywhere, and the industry being open to this kind of a concept, which was earlier not there. One of the big opportunities which I also see for India is that while we are, Mr. Monti talked about PCPIRs, and we are trying to secure our basic raw material feedstock, which is, I think, a great stuff, and we should be doing that. But along with that, I think we should also have plan B in place, which is how do we also have an alternative plan being worked out, that tomorrow we all know some point of time these renewable feedstocks are not going to be there. So if we really want to be a very long-term self-sufficient chemical sector, then we also need to, along with a petroleum feedstock, the PCPIRs that we are developing, we should also look at a parallel entire set of economy which is based on bio-based. We are sitting on, fortunately, a good amount of resources there. How can we have a parallel feedstocks, the basic raw materials coming from bio-based sources, so that none of these chemicals or basic starting raw materials, we are fully dependent on the petroleum feedstock, and we have a bio-based economy which is running parallelly. And why that needs to be done right now is because if we start planting those seeds now, then we would start seeing probably some benefits, because there is a whole bunch of catalyst and catalyst systems and process innovations and stuff like that that would be required to have that entire, those bio-based feedstocks leading to some basic starting raw materials. That entire economy needs really to be developed in terms of both chemical processes and manufacturing facilities as well. So if we start roping those seeds now, we'll probably have the fruits as a chemical industry down the line, maybe a couple of decades, when we would be not fully dependent on petroleum resources, and we also have bio-based as a parallel system to provide us with feedstocks. The last point on possible partnerships and policies. One part I already mentioned, that I don't know how and what can be done, but somewhere the collaboration between academic research institutes and industry needs to be facilitated. Some great business models and partnership models need to really evolve over there. The second is, how do we really create a startup ecosystem for young chemists and chemical engineers, something that we have been grappling for years now, and really don't know how to put that in place. But unlike the chemical, unlike the financial or the IT sector, where what you need is just a laptop, maybe an internet connection to get going and form a startup company, that really does not happen with chemical sector. A chemist or a chemical engineer who is sitting on a potential catalyst or a potential idea or a potential green solvent or a potential green engineering kind of an innovation, he would require lab, he would require setup, he would require analytical facilities, he would require a whole bunch of system structure around for him to really innovate, try out that proof of idea and the concept, and really, and then at some point of time scale it up and commercialize. So, creating that ecosystem for a young chemist and chemical engineer, I think, is quite different, and we haven't yet figured that out. We've got one or two models in around NCL Ventures and a couple of things, but really like a flourishing one ecosystem is something that we really still need to figure out. The second is on the incentive front. I feel that there is both the MSME especially, as well as I would say both the solution providers who are developing innovative sustainability solutions, as well as the set of companies who are implementing it. If there is some kind of an incentive that could be worked out where there is some amount of motivation to move things forward, probably it, I believe, could help. I think that's it from my side.
Thank you very much, Nikesh. You raised a lot of points. I think being myself an environmental engineer by education, I particularly like your point that if we at some stage need to get out of the petrochemicals, then we need to start investing in setting up alternative supply chains. This would not happen overnight. So if we want a bio-based economy, then there is some fundamental research catalyst processes to get to some of the starting chemicals, which will take probably a decade or two to really mature, and that would be a parallel investment that would be well worth it right now moving forward. I think you spoke in the beginning of the internal aspects of culture, of environmental health and safety, and then driving that to sustainability. And then you also spoke a lot about the collaboration between industry and academia, and the innovation ecosystem, which as many have commented in India is somehow still a bit weak, and is also very much a concern of UNIDO to move in that direction. I mentioned in the introduction that we are working with DST on trying to map what innovation systems are happening, also with a focus on the chemical industry. So it would be nice maybe to take a conversation offline and maybe with other partners on the call to see what can be done, or what are specific opportunities that we can get this basically the brain power and the ideas of the academics or the research institutions, plus the operational knowledge and the technology and management capability of the manufacturing industries to bring something to fruition, because ultimately we need both to get there, and then we need the government to kind of enable or facilitate those kind of collaborations. So thank you very much to you, but also to the other panelists for very rich contributions. I think we are a bit in the short of time, which is my fault of poor timekeeping, but it has been rich. So maybe I would still want to go back for maybe 1 minute comment from each of the panelists to kind of reflect and capture what would be your one takeaway, which you would like to give to the department, to UNIDO, to your industry colleagues. What would be your most important takeaway in terms of moving the agenda for the need for the chemicals manufacturing towards inclusiveness and sustainability? So Shyam, because you started the long conversation, so can I ask you first for one big takeaway, what should be done? You're muted.
I think all the panelists have made very good points, and all of them really and should be considered and put together. I think we have a good substance collected today for taking this movement forward. I would still say the manufacturing excellence, making the companies strong from within is very important. R&D is doing a great job in the country. A lot of R&D is happening in the country. I think what was the situation 30 years back is not the same today. So there's R&D. Now the question is taking that R&D to a commercial scale. Again, that's where the entrepreneurship comes. So that entrepreneurship, putting things together, will certainly take the chemical industry forward. The challenges of environment and safety certainly needs that kind of training, bringing it in the DNA of this company, as the panelists have pointed out. The top management values have to be really percolated down to the grassroots on the shop floor worker. So these are the key factors, in my opinion, for the growth of the chemical industry in the country.
Okay, thank you very much, Jan. So then Mr. Mohanty, your takeaway.
Thank you. I think very nice presentations and talks has been given by all of our panelists. The main thing is that, again, we will go to the core issue of this industry, is that how to link between industry and academia R&D sector. That is the main part of it. And this is the year, or this is the decade, we have to take up those challenges with us. Otherwise, we cannot improve in this sector, becoming a manufacturing excellence in the part of chemical industry. So a lot of things need to be done. And as far as thanks to UNIDO that getting all of us together, and I think in future also this type of conversations would be there in between us. And Ms. Baijal also told a certain point that there must be a collaborative mindset that requires among the chemical manufacturers and chemical industry, so that the MSME sector, like Mr. Nitish Mehta has told, that those who doesn't have the facility, they can be facilitated by the other industry peer colleagues or industry manufacturers in that case, so that the knowledge can be disseminated to that level itself to get the chemical industry more robust in the country itself. This is my takeaway. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and really also pointing around to the collaboration and mindset of that's necessary to do that. So it's not only I can do it, but we have to do this together. So, Mr. Patel, what would be your takeaway?
Thank you, sir. All give me a chance to presentation, and all participants give good ideas for innovation in India. And our Gujarat government implement iHub by Education Department to connect industries and students to develop new process and technology for industries. And Gujarat government maybe implement policy support to MSME and also medium and large industries within 1 month. Maybe give contribution subsidies 10% maximum. Total investment of large industries. I means government want to develop nation with generate employment with protection of environment. So our presentation give you UNIDO and DCPC and with suggestion. Okay, sir. Thanks to all.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Thank you very much. Vijay Matkar, what would be your takeaway?
Yeah, Dr. Rene, I see a pious intent. So, all across the table, I see that the intent is there. We have organizations like UNIDO, and then, people like Mr. Mehta who make us accountable, who are there with a stick in their hand and, herding us in the right direction. We have the R&I, the research and development here, who have the right intent and the capability and the skill set to take the concepts, ideas, and convert it into concepts, along with breakthrough innovation from academia partner, but also innovation which is directed more towards like instantaneous gratification, as I call it, in the industry. So all of that is there. We have manufacturers like HIL, and I went through their website, and they are already looking into R&D and sustainable chemistries and green chemistry. And we have like Jubilant Life Sciences, where we bring together not only on the life sciences, but also like FICCI and ICC and organizations as such. So I think the raw material is all there. We need to kind of keep this together, this community together, and have a differential, growth. We are not aiming for 50% tomorrow. And as you very rightly pointed out, you're coming out of petrochemical sector, it's going to take 2 to 3 decades. It's fine, but the step is now. The time is now, and I think COVID has taught us even more how important natural resources is and how powerful is Mother Nature. So I think we need to listen to her. We need to keep our heads together and keep progressing in this direction. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Nitesh, can I come back to you?
Yeah, I think besides what Ms. Bijal just said about, if there is some way that we can have a kind of a long-term, collaborative model of like-minded people from large, small, medium, and enterprises coming together and being in touch continuously, and some or the other initiatives keep popping up over there. I think that would go a long way in terms of creating a very strong community of stakeholders who are all committed towards the same cause of making our chemical industry very sustainable long term and very competitive. I think the second part, which is I think a big takeaway for me, is there is an initiative that we had talked about, and we used to call that as low-hanging fruit. That our CS, all the research institutes that we have, they are already sitting on a huge number of ready-to-implement technologies at different stages, maybe of implementation. And if there is some way that pocket or that source of information, which is all the new available ready to implement technologies that are available, which is sitting at some place, and there is industry on the other side looking around for such solutions. Very long back, we had proposed to Department of Chemicals and Petrochemicals, and they had also kind of taken it forward to actually create kind of a database where we could connect industry who's looking for solutions and such solutions which are already readily available in the country, which are low-hanging fruits. It just needs to be, it's just that the academic and research institutes are not proactively going out and marketing it to the industry. So if there is some way through a very web-based interface, if there is some way that a website could be created and we could connect these two things together, maybe a lot of these innovations that are sitting on the back bench could actually come forward and get implemented, and manufacturing excellence could be achieved. So I think if some way that initiative could move forward, I think that would be a big contribution to industry as well as to academic research institutes.
Okay, thank you very much. I think all 5 are very valid observations, and I would like to maybe conclude with first of all thanking the panel. So each of you very much thank you for your respective contributions. And indeed, to talk about the way forward, I think UNIDO is keen to play a role in this transformation of the sector and to look for more innovation opportunities. So we will certainly take that forward. I think that I have 3 takeaways. I'll take the privilege of the moderator then to say that we've spoken a lot about manufacturing excellence, and it's something like internal strength. So that needs to be there. So there needs to be a focus on internal capabilities, accountability, standard operating procedures to be followed, to monitor internal audit and really drive this forward and not just lip service to these practices that we know. I think that there is there's another set of messages which comes around that we need to tune into collaborative modes on that. So I can be very good at what I do, but maybe I can still learn something from somebody else who's also doing, or is maybe not doing as well, but in some areas might be doing well. So tuning into the idea of collaboration with industry partners, but also with academia is something which clearly came out. And I think as the third point, I would take out this issue of what's also highlighted of the kind of taking responsibility for this. So we still have too often messages in the media that something went wrong somewhere. This is not what the 21st century is, what a self-reliant India is, and there needs to be a culture around this, and we need to address it. That basically the goals should be zero, as some of the bigger corporates are saying, zero harm to people. So if you walk into a chemical factory, manufacturing site, you should be able to walk out in the evening. There should be no harm to people in that sense. And that is still a challenge in some place. And I think all around the world, this is a continuous point of attention. And also, as Unita said, if we have to get out of petrochemicals, then we need to start investing now. We need to take responsibility for these transformations in the longer run. So those would be my 3 points. And indeed, as I said earlier, we would be very much, as UNIDO, wanting to look at opportunities that we can assist, and we come back to the panelists and also the participants on looking at ways to drive this agenda forward. So with that, I would like to hand back to Major for a formal vote of thanks, and then we close the event. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just hear that the metro is not there. So then I'll take the formal thanks to all of the panelists. Thank you very much for your respective contributions. Thank you a lot, and we'll be in touch to take this agenda forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.